All right, guys, in the Superdome with our CST analyst, Deuce McAllister, the best running back in Saints history, and boy, a lot on the line for this football team. We've said that a few times, but today it's officially not going to make the playoffs. What stands out for you today?
I think when you have all the momentum, you have all the cards lined up for you, and you know that it's got to take your best effort, and not to say that the effort was not good, just the execution. It's been the same thing we've harped on week in and week out. It's just the little mistakes will kill you, and not doing the small things, looking the ball in, being on the same page with the quarterback on a route, reading the run lanes. It's just there's not one play or one position that can take the blame. I think it starts all 53.
5 straight losses at home. 3 in a row they've won on the road. I mean, it comes back. Pierre Thomas caught the screen. It looked pretty good, but he goes out. The running game suffered. Drew wasn't getting protected. Drew was off in some passes. Were you puzzled by this offense after that opening drive? They really struggled after that the next couple quarters.
The opening drive was only one play.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, so when you really look at it, it was, if you exclude that, for 3 quarters, that offense really didn't move the ball. And whether it was move it consistently, rather. You had some spurts, you had some plays, but it was when they had to put 80 together and go 80 yards, just couldn't do it.
Sean Payton said, remarked in a question, that this season isn't a head scratcher. We know what we have to fix, but there isn't just one thing on this football team, is there?
Hey, there's an ugly saying: you can only put so much lipstick on a pig. And that's just, it is what it is. You can't take guys off red shirt. There's only so many guys that you can bring off the street. There's only maybe 1 or 2 trades that you can make. Guys have to make plays. If they don't make plays, then you end up with a season like this. From that standpoint, you have to figure out, okay, is this guy part of your program? Is he an ascending player or is he a descending player? Can he help us consistently week in and week out? And so, I have a lot of friends in there. Unfortunately, this is the other part of the business because a lot of those guys won't be back.
And you have a great pulse of this locker room. You said that weeks ago. Sean Payton alluded that right after the Carolina game. Do you see wholesale changes? I mean, is it hard to quantify right now?
If you played in this league, and I was blessed and fortunate enough to play in this league and play with this organization, and that's just not this team. That goes for this league. They have to run this team. It's a business from that standpoint. There's only so much you're going to take as far as an organization before the changes have to be made. If this team wants to be successful next year and field a team that can get into the playoffs, particularly with the guys that they have, changes have to be made. And where those changes are, I don't know. That's Sean, that's Mickey. They'll make them. They'll do their best to put the best 53 plus 10 practice squad together, but the squad that they have now won't be back. And that was obvious weeks ago.
One guy we know who will be back is tight end Jimmy Graham, who hasn't looked like himself really the past month. Just what's going on with his injuries? What do you think?
He's got to get healthy. He's got to get healthy, and when he's not 100%, he's got to learn to play with pain. And that's the toughest part. You think that it's easy to go out there and play. It's hard to go out there and play, but you got to play with pain. And he's not healthy, and then whether he's hearing footsteps from a big shot or trying to protect himself, I can understand. But at the same time, you expect him to go and do it because he's done it so many times. So he's just got to find a way to get healthy and then go out there and prove and show why he is one of the top tight ends in the league.
Deuce, like you said, you know a lot of guys in that locker room. You have a good pulse. What is this team feeling right now?
Hurt. I mean, you're disappointed. You're hurt. Now you question, have I done enough? Will I be back? Have I done enough to show this team that I can improve? Or have I done enough to warrant me coming back and fighting for a position? That's probably the most disappointing part that you saw week in and week out was guys just not fighting. You had emotion in spurts, but guys not fighting because it was like, oh, I'm here. I made it. We did this the week before. This team isn't very good, so they're supposed to not play. It's not going to happen like that. The other guy is trying to earn his check as well.
Final question. Looking back at Greenbrier, a lot of the so-called experts had this team in the Super Bowl. A lot of us thought this was going to be a very talented team, but the facts are they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to have a winning record. How much does that surprise you just looking back, the way the season has unfolded?
Well, I think a lot of us, thought players had made steps, whether they were young guy, whether they were just coming in. A lot of changes, and it just never came together. Never came together when you got rid of the guys that you did. We all know what happened at that standpoint, but just really never came together. This team never gelled. Whether you give it another role, they possibly may. I think certain ones will be back, but you have to get better. If you want to keep the core together. Obviously, guys are a year older, so you've got to figure it out. Hey, look, we're going to roll with this group, or we're going to make some changes. Like Sean and Mickey.
That's right. Well, listen, you've been a great analyst all year, and one more game left. But Merry Christmas, my friend, to you and your family, and enjoy the holiday season.
Thank you for the bright note.
All about silver linings here in the Superdome.